I can't hear anyone yet. Maybe there's a delay.
Brenda's connecting to audio.
Yeah, I don't see anything for the others. In case anybody can hear us, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Ah, there we go. We got someone sideways. Okay. Good morning. Welcome. Ah, I hear a voice. Welcome.
Yeah.
Hello.
It's Shannon.
Hi.
Hi, Shannon. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Come to work here. Oh, well, there we go. I was seeing you upside down.
Yes. Or we were seeing you upside down.
Oh, right. Yes. I better sit.
Technology is always interesting to learn and see how it's all going to work when we're just learning how to navigate some of these new ways. Other people have been using them for lots of years, but we're a little newer to this.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened to me was like, it's very noisy downstairs right now. There's a birthday party going on.
Oh.
So I came upstairs at the last minute. I'm just on my phone and it wasn't tilt. You know how when you turn it, it's supposed to tilt. So it wasn't doing that, but now I'm good, I think.
Okay.
You see me okay?
Yes, we can see you great.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. What time is it in Finland right now?
Oh, no, I'm down in Southern California.
Oh, you're in California.
Yeah,
I was thinking, okay. I was thinking,
back.
Okay, gotcha.
Because of the, virus and borders closing and isolation and all that. Yeah.
So you came home. Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of parked at Holly's till I figure out what to do next.
Yeah, it's kind of left a number of us in limbo, hasn't it?
Yes, definitely.
So do we have voice from a couple other people here? I think I heard Shannon. I haven't heard Melanie or Sheila. Is there anyone else? That's who I have listed on my end.
That's who we have so far.
We have good connection with Brenda. Oh, we lost Sheila. Or I lost Sheila. Okay. So I'm a little concerned that we're not getting voice from people. Okay. So Marie, you want to mention the chat so that people, even if they don't want to do visual, that they can engage with us?
Yes, at the bottom, at least on my screen, it's at the bottom, depending on where your taskbar is, there's a little icon that says chat. And so if you have a question, you're certainly welcome to type it in there as Dr. Grobe or I are speaking, and that way we can address a question that you might have. Or I think that may work out the easiest rather than maybe interjecting as we go along. But if you do have a question, we certainly, Melanie says, yep, the chat is on for everyone. So that's great.
And also I wanted to mention that for those of you joining us, in case you are having any problems, you can self-mute, especially if there's noise in your background. On the bottom left on that same taskbar is your microphone and your video. So you can shut off the video or on the video and on and off with the mic as well. So that will help as far as orientating yourself a bit. So welcome, and we'll just let people join as they come in. And today we're checking in with people for our end, for our state, Washington State. We are running on about 4 weeks now of quarantine suggestions, although that has varied from state to state as far as what that actually means. And in some cities, even what that manifests as. And we're checking in today on mental health because Marie and I both have noticed that we are in unusual circumstances with stress, with finances, with just economy, family relations, so many things going on simultaneously that each week progresses and news changes, that we are going into different phases of emotion. And our diets are quite different in some cases, depending on what you have access to, depending on what you have at home, depending on what you have can get to your home. And of course, before all of this happened, we all had certain diets and health issues that we were dealing with prior. So this is a comment as well as a check-in with people on what they're going through on that. So Marie, did you want to add anything else to that as far as?
I have, I'm a glass half full kind of person. So I have, and I'm fairly intuitive. So prior to all of this, I didn't understand why I felt like we were going into what I'm calling a reset. But I really felt like we were going to revisit the 1970s. Not necessarily bell bottoms and platform shoes, but more like what I remember from being in a two-parent household, but having one parent working and one parent home, having a garden, having just kind of really kind of regrouping and bringing everybody together. And so as far as diet goes, and the foods that we choose to purchase at the grocery store, we really, in the beginning of all this, we were very much led to fear a bit, that I was fearful that we wouldn't be able to get to the store and get what we needed. Toilet paper was not on my long list of groceries and things to purchase. I was more concerned with broth and things in case someone would come down with this illness, this mystery illness that we really knew a little bit about, but not a lot. And so we actually are eating healthier.
Good.
Because I bought things for the long term, things to freeze, berries, vegetables, canned goods, things that would last for a long period of time. We have slacked back a bit now. I have dietary issues, so I'm not likely to go into the freezer for a frozen pizza. But there have been some changes as these weeks have passed. So that's been my experience, and I'm hopeful that families have sat down, prepared meals together. They're all sequestered, and given children a task, and it may be, again, this is my hopefulness, something that's carried forward because it's been very helpful to have the kids be involved in the division of labor and seeing the benefits of nutrition. But I don't know that to be true for everyone.
Well, I can give a local story related to that, in that I was speaking with one of the owners of Grace Harbor Farms here locally. They not only produce the wonderful MSM cream that I'm suggesting that people use for their chest for any lung related problems as an anti-inflammatory, but they also produce dairy products, goat milk dairy products. And they said they are running out of goat milk like crazy. And it's a secondary effect in the sense that besides the locals that know what they sell, getting it, because you can freeze it very nicely as well if you wanted to stock up on some of that. But also, they found that the local grocery stores were taxing their supplies heavily because they couldn't get the food supply from their normal suppliers. So, in a positive way, the chain effect was affecting the local dairies in that they could sell more to the chain stores. And the owner, Grace, she actually said, she goes, people are at home more, cooking more, so they're getting some of these healthier products. rather than going out to eat, and therefore they're not needing as much milk products. And that's just a single store, single product. So that was positive to hear. I've been to the stores a few times myself. Um, so I guess we're talking about gut health first, but I've been to the store a few times, and less as the stress gets higher of standing in line, and it's just getting ridiculous trying to go in the stores. And I do think some of that is intentional, but in a health respect, it makes sense. And I find that when people are purchasing things, they're purchasing more emotional stuff now. They're going more for the chocolate, more for the treats, more for the things. So to me, that signals a transition in the emotional state of where people are at. Because initially they were looking for the basics, flour and butter and milk products and favorite foods, or like you said, long-term storage kind of thing. And now they're going for oh, I just ran out of this, I just ran out of that. But now we're second guessing, like, if I'm going to go to the store and I have to stand in line for half an hour before I can get in the store, and none of us know what our budget's going to be like soon. We're all just also reaching for things that we wouldn't normally budget in consciously. It might be unconscious for sure, but that's what I'm seeing. So that's why I wanted to talk today about mental health, because that and gut and what you're eating and whatever form of quarantine you're experiencing is going to matter significantly on how we process any stress moving forward in the future. So anybody else want to chime in? This is a good time to share any story you're going through, either an emotional on what is affecting your diet, or vice versa, if you're experiencing any health issues at this point, related to specifically the quarantine and how it's affected a change in diet or change in emotion. Anybody want to comment?
I guess I can say something,
Yeah.
Mystique, if you like. So I would say for myself, like, the magnitude of the unknown of the future can be extremely unnerving. And I have to practice on a daily basis to just stay in the present. So it's not so much that I get worried about that I'm going to get COVID or something, but what's it going to look like afterwards? Like, there's all this possibilities of financial disruption and all that kind of stuff. So I have to really also watch my diet. And I've been in isolation since March 14th. And that day I did a big shopping trip, and I purposely didn't buy anything that I knew I would binge on, because I know a little bit of chocolate came in the house from somebody else at Easter. And once you start, it's so hard to stop. So I find it's easier to not bring it in from the grocery store, because if it's in the house, I'm going to eat it. So that's the thing. But I also meditate to try and stay in the present. And I don't watch a lot of news, because I find after I watch the news, mentally I'm very disturbed and anxious, and just the tone of where they do it. So I read more than getting into their nervous energy. So that helps a lot. And I do some probiotics and stuff like that. But basically my big weapon is to try and remind myself right now in the present, I'm okay. So yeah,
that's very good, the present moment thing.
Yeah.
I find mainstream and alternative media, you got to stay off the channels, because it just gets you to you're sick to your stomach. I want to comment, and Marie, you could too. Stress affects us all differently. We have a system it will go to. In some people, it will go to your stomach. That's why we have the term sick to my stomach, or it just makes me nauseous to think about that. I mean, think of all the language we use around how we describe where stress gets it. Oh, that person's a pain in the neck. Oh, I'm getting a migraine just thinking about it. So we all have a place it goes. But I do know many of us are experiencing the gut aspect, because that's also our connection socially, human to human. If you think chakra wise, you think our human connection is often umbilical. It's at our navel. It's our connection to mother, our connection to family, our connection to other people. And then, of course, up from that is your heart area. And we are being isolated. And that's why they're starting to watch the language around that as well, because that is really making people even additionally stressed thinking of that separation. So we even have to think about our language, but being in the
Mm.
present moment helps a lot. If you got to check the news, check it once a day is my recommendation. Anybody else want to comment about their experience right now?
I guess I'll check in. I'm Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi, here in Bellingham, not San Francisco.
But it's a nice picture.
Lately, I've been thinking, gosh, it's not like there's anywhere I could escape to. Like, oh, I wish I could leave There's nowhere on the planet that's safe to go. So here we are.
Uh-huh.
I've been in isolation since the 13th or so of March, and I live alone. So it's like, and my work is working with people in groups.
Oh.
And locked the door of my studio on March 12th, and that was the end of my business.
Mhm.
And it's also my passion. So I've lost that whole, it's double loneliness and missing them. And so I feel like I'm in a grieving process. And some days are good. So, I go up and down every hour, every day, hit a little path of grief, then I stop and do what I do now. So I formed virtual classes, so it's the shock, it's the grief, and then okay, well, I'm going to live with what we've got now. And I have a pretty darn limited particular diet. So my stress is I can't just like call Fred Meyer and order milk and eggs, right?
Mhm.
The stress, and I don't go into the stores. I rely on whoever I know that might be going to one to get me some stuff. So
Uh-huh.
there's stress about when am I going to get this? Who's going to get it? All that. I can't just go to the store and choose. And I actually found that I have had a loss of appetite. So I've had to I have to make myself eat when I get stressed. And no joke,
Mhm.
pretty good about it, but I found myself eating, what I'm saying? Like, so kind of rationing myself. So, it's just, so even things like this, which are virtual, it's good to hear fellow humans and kind of patience and perspective. Someday we'll be on another stages of it, but
Mhm.
if I listen to the news or just think about, or whatever, can't quite do it, but if I just take it, then here we are. So I see these guys. Yeah, even hear about Grace. I get Grace Harbor's goat milk secret all the time. They don't.
Uh-huh.
So that's me for now.
Okay. And so that is part of what we're talking about today is stages of grief. And we don't go through them in a specific order or anything. Um, I had people weeping in the first week because they could see further down the line the changes that this was going to make to us uh, as a country, as a culture, as our connection with humanity and how we do things. I know that for myself, I'm mostly just ticked off. That's the mild version of what I'm really feeling. Um, because so much of it is out of control. You give me someone I can help, I can do healing, but then I can't touch anybody. I can't check a pulse. I can't examine someone physically without so many barriers in between. It's like, what's the point? So I am missing that very human connection, even just to do what I do. And then what I define myself as is cut off as well. Doing all this telemedicine, I'm one of those not, I'm the antithesis of a computer geek. I hate computers, like, and it hates me. And so to be forced to do something that not only do I hate, but I don't want this to be my life, it literally makes me go, do I want to do something different now? Which in the positive realm is, okay, so I can reinvent myself. This is an opportunity to do something else that I love. So if I stay, like Brenda said, present and meditate and be centered on that kind of stuff, I can utilize where I'm at and what I'm experiencing. But emotionally, my stage of grief is really angry about politicians and the shenanigans and frankly not at all fear whatsoever of the virus. I admittedly I have certain skills and access to certain medicines, but I'm every time I place an order I can't get something for a patient. Like you talk about the access to certain foods. I can't get what I consider necessary medicines. Try ordering liposomal vitamin C, anything with zinc in it. I've had shipments returned to the manufacturer, shipments that were hard to get because the UPS guy didn't want to walk in the door of the building that I work at. And I'm just so and I'm an Aries, so there's a little fire sign in me. And so yeah, I'm not happy right now. That's my stage. And yes, it comes and goes and I'm up and down and I'm calm, but to stay in that is not going to be healthy. Anybody else want to comment? Because I could just go off on that. You can tell how I'm feeling right now.
Well, I need to test. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
Very faint.
we can hear you, Melanie. Did you want to comment on your experience
Well,
right now?
yeah. You were talking about computers and how you don't like computers, and you don't want it to be like sitting at the computer at home, sitting at the computer at work.
Correct.
And I can very much relate to that. I have my own desk at home where I'm sitting right now. And I've been doing computer classes at the college, and I spend almost the whole time I'm at on campus. When I'm in the building, I'm on a computer. And so the last thing that I want to do when I get home is sit at my desk. So I have, sometimes it's like we live in an apartment and it's just the two of us. So I try to, make myself an area, even if I am sitting at my desk, I try not to do anything on my computer. But Bill's waking up. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right, Shannon, did you want to say something while we're waiting for Melanie?
I mean, I hate to say misery loves company, but it's sort of reassuring. Everybody, different parts of the state, etc., different states, we're all going kind of through the same thing.
Okay.
I just thought
I'm
I was
back.
the only one. I thought it was just magnified for me. So it's definitely lots of anxiety. It sounds like everyone else is feeling the same way. So
I would say that for me, I have some pretty good skills with emotional stress release and other techniques that I'm happy to share. And I have a pretty even understanding from I was a rescuer back in the day, an emergency medical technician. And so I have knowledge. And yesterday was one of those days where there's new information with insurance companies coming down their processing pike already in place, and now we have this extra stress. And I kind of lost my cool yesterday in speaking with them because they are not very forgiving when it comes to their policies during this time. And that means real dollars are being lost for practitioners. And it wasn't even my money. I was helping someone else. And when I inquired about the process and how we could change it moving forward, it was explained to me that in May, you can't even make a phone call to this particular company because everything now will be done online. And so it was very frustrating. And so my only, and there is really no recourse, my only action could be to educate the person who has that insurance, to let them know the now 5 layers of hell that we as practitioners have to go to get their visits approved. And then on a wing and a prayer, we might actually get the money. And so they may want to consider making another choice for a company that's easier to work with, because their visits are not going to get paid, and that will result in practitioners not accepting their insurance, and then they won't get the care they need. And so I see both sides of things where people really need the care and they're spending a lot of money on gut health, on physical therapy, on counseling, on the naturopath, and they're spending a lot of money on their premium, and they may not get any value for any kind of visits that they schedule. And that concerns me, because we're in this fear mode of you must have insurance because you might get sick, and then who's going to see you? And in the long run, we don't want to have to send a bill because your insurance didn't, there's all these paperwork trails that you have to follow now down through in third and fourth party companies. And so we're really here to say, let's take care of your health yourself, and then you may not need to go into a healthcare practitioner and have expensive testing. And let's see if we can mitigate with the food choices and your mental health.
Well, and Melanie, I'll make sure we come back to you because I know we got cut off there. I want to say, as far as, yes, we're going to have to start taking care of ourselves. Now, I know a lot of people, especially possibly this population we even have today, but at this point, medicine is going to become less and less accessible. Being in the medical field, I can tell you that is the dream of insurance companies and regulators of just about everything related to health, from the top down. They want you to do things remotely, via computers, via machines. They want to take the people out of it, the intuition out of it, the understanding, the connection, the intuition, the whole picture out of it. They want to assess you with little micro sensors. That is the dream of the future, I assure you. And in some ways, that's very beneficial for, say, for example, like a brittle diabetic who really cannot get their blood sugar under absolute control. To have those microsensors giving constant feedback so they can adjust things can be helpful, and I've seen it in practice. However, if we can go back to the basics of health, and this is the opportunity to do it, although under limited circumstances. For example, I just my diet alone, I notice I'm eating more carbohydrates than I would like to, because my garden isn't far enough along. It will be by summer, but it's not far enough along right now. And so I find that, on the day-to-day meal, because fresh produce can expire, I don't have as much of it on hand. So I find that, especially if I'm looking at the reluctance to go to the store, that maybe the vegetables aren't getting as high in my diet as I would like or I'm used to, which of course then affects my gut health, just on how it feels, let alone bowel movements and digestion and how energetic you feel nutrition wise. So we need to make sure we talk about how eating a good diet will affect positively on every emotion that we're going through, regardless of external circumstances. Okay, Melanie, do you want to go back real quick to what you were saying?
Yeah, I'm here. I totally forgot what I was saying.
Okay, well, all right. So
but like with right now, like diet wise and like the feeling and like staying on the regular schedule that that we were kind of sort of on before all this started. I've realized about myself that I haven't been eating as much all around, like not as much carbs, not as much protein. I'm like, why? I'm like, it's probably because I'm super stressed. Because usually when I'm stressed, I'll eat more. But when I get past that level, then I just don't eat. But I've been forcing myself to eat. Um, and staying staying cooped up at home. Yeah, I get antsy, but I can still go for a walk because I have 2 feet and I can still ride my bike because I still have both my legs. And like it's those little things that most of us that are, able, like, and we still have all of our working parts of our body, we take for granted. And I've been noticing that, we need to look at those things and not take them for granted because we can still do these things. There are a bunch of people out there. I actually have a girlfriend and I love her to death. But I would love her even more if I could do more things with her, like go for walks, go for bike rides. She's actually paralyzed and she still has her personality about her, but I could see so many more fun things happening if we could ride bikes together and stuff like that. But I'll take what I get. So, and I miss her dearly. She actually just moved right before all this started. She used to live in Bellingham, but now she lives further north, and it's harder for me to get to her.
Well, and so that's where, thank goodness, we do have technology, is we can keep in touch with people with our videos and our phone calls. I know people are writing letters more. And so, you see the memes about what am I going to wear to the mailbox, but it's well worth connecting in that way. I am curious though, Brenda, you being in California, are you allowed out? We're hearing rumors in Washington State that you guys aren't even allowed out of your houses. Is that correct?
Well, I've heard that about the Bay Area where I used to live, that
Uh-huh.
in especially Santa Clara County and in San Francisco itself, you could be stopped and asked as to why you're out.
Okay.
I'm not seeing that so much down here I'm south of Los Angeles. And
Okay.
I thought it would become more strict because Los Angeles was one of the hot centers,
Yeah.
hotbeds, but no, I don't think so. But if you go over to the beach like a couple of weeks ago, it would be like business as usual. So they had to tape off all the parking and everything to make it harder. So I think there's a set of people that just still don't take this. And to your point about language, I'm trying to not to use social distancing. It's more like physical distancing, seriously. So there's pockets of that still going on. But I think in the Bay in Northern California, it is true. They're almost policing it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were getting that. Yeah.
Well, and so part of our discussion today in eating a good diet and understanding why it's important. And Dr. Grobe and I are going to do a breakout session this afternoon where it's just she and I going through kind of the a little more of the details. But our digestion, we produce a lot of the hormones that we need for our brain. The happiness hormones, serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine, those are produced in the gut. And so if we are choosing foods that are convenient, not, maybe prepackaged, we're not necessarily getting the best nutritional value, the vitamins, the minerals that we need. So food is truly our medicine. And if we have a better understanding of, and being mindful of having carrots and having broccoli and having onion or my old fashioned casserole when I was in school, and I think back to this casserole that they made in school, it was really packed with vegetables. And it had a little bit of a tomato red sauce to it. And there was some pasta. Even back then, I was picking the pasta out and putting it aside because I just don't tolerate it. So it's kind of interesting for me to think back as I kind of process what did I eat years ago and what am I eating now. We really do need to be mindful of what we're putting in. And do you know what the vitamin content is in the food that you're eating?
Well, I want to comment about, first of all, we're in a really important timing right now, being in spring, and we have the summer ahead of us. As far as viral health, stress health, immune health, moving forward into the future, whatever circumstances we're under, we have to get that dealt with between spring and summer right now. And so I'll just outline that a little bit, in the sense that for those who garden or who have skills or great friends they can trade with, garden vegetables, including storable vegetables, is going to be very important. But even if you're planting just the leafy greens, because these are packed with minerals, packed with nutrients, packed with anti-inflammatory and antioxidant help. A lot of people who are thinking in advance are putting in fruit trees, fruit bushes, because those are very important for our cardiovascular health, our mental health. Antioxidants, they help us recover from illness as well as stave it off. So our gardens are going to be our major medicine for us. And then if you think in advance also about using the herbs that we would use in our cooking, for herbs and spices, a lot of them have medicinal benefits as well. And we mentioned rosemary in a past video, but
Yep.
thyme, lavender, eucalyptus. I've got a friend who has mullein in her yard, and I am just, drooling to try and get a hold of her plants because it never grows in mine. And mullein is fantastic for the lungs. So if you can, you want all of those things in your garden, or have a gardener either in your neighborhood or neighbor or friend or something. And then you can, and then the next step is, for those who don't have, we still have YouTube, so we can get on there and learn some skills. There are tons of small farmer garden growing videos that will teach you how to grow something, how to process it, how to preserve it. And that's why I'm saying, as we're moving into winter, whatever happens, even if they open the doors, our food supply is broken. Our resource supply is broken for a time. We don't know yet the consequences of the length of time. So we need to utilize what we have on hand. We need to prepare for a winter of possibly less of anything. So we need to be able to utilize what we have, and we have this great opportunity for spring and summer to get those vegetables in the garden, and to get our fruit trees and our berries growing and harvest them. I mean, how many people know that the raspberry and blackberry leaves that you're trying to prune out of your yard, if you're getting out right now, is you can actually make tea out of it, and it's great for your circulation, it's great for your moods, it's great antioxidant for your brain, it's great for menstrual cramps. Those leaves, every time I prune my raspberries, I in the spring leaves are actually the best, because it's got the most energy of the plant. And so those are the ones. And if I can't make a fresh tea right there out of it, I will dehydrate them, put them in my dehydrator, and I will dry the leaves and then put them in a glass jar. And then I have a year's worth of raspberry leaves, that even if you don't want to drink it as a tea by itself, you can always add something else to it. And keep in mind, those teas, those medicinal teas, or those medicinal herbs that you make, you don't always have to drink it as a tea. You can add it to something you're cooking. You can add it to a salad dressing.
Mhm.
So it can be, you can use that in lieu of water. Now, heat can destroy things, but you can always add these kinds of things when you're at the done with the cooking stage. So keep in mind that you can use these in other ways, or just drink a cool tea of raspberry leaf, or add it to your lemonade if you're going to make lemonade. Um, Marie mentioned the hormones that are produced in our gut. This is the most thing to remember as we are sequestered here and thinking about a balance of diet, not just to avoid gaining weight or to avoid no appetite, is to keep in mind that we have little organisms, gut bacteria in our gut. We have had a huge surge of information and research in the last couple years on our gut biome. It's basically an entire community and colony that's growing in us, and the things that it has consequences on. It's those gut biome and their health. So the little guys that depend on us will affect our hormones. They produce what our brain produces. And if we're eating a lot of non-organic food sprayed with glyphosate or Roundup, we are killing them. If we are eating a lot of sugar, we are promoting the bad guys to grow, especially if you're prone to yeast or other kinds of bacteria or parasites. And when we're thinking about this virus and our immune health, you want to make sure that you keep your gut biome healthy. And if you do, and diverse, it needs to be diverse, kind of like, America being better for all the different cultures and traditions rather than a single mono culture here. We actually benefit from huge diversity in our gut. And if our gut is only like one type of probiotic in there at a time, we actually have an imbalance. And we have a lot of flora, a lot of bacteria that's in there that is considered neutral, unless you don't have enough of the good bacteria. Then you now have a parasitic effect from those neutral bacteria. And yeast is always present in our gut. It's part of our flora. But when we eat out of balance, and that's too acidic, too sugary, too processed, not enough of the good fibers that come from vegetables and fruits, then we are going to have problems with parasitic result that will make us sick, tired, unfocused, poor energy, moody, anxious, depressed, angry. People with OCD, people with ADD, ADHD will be much worse if they are not eating fruits and vegetables and have a healthy gut biome. And there's some other factors, and we'll do that in the breakout when we talk about genetics and methylation. But so our goal, besides, where are we in our mental emotional state, what can we do with our physical actions like exercise, is what can we do at home where we are right now with the current circumstances to enhance our gut health, that in turn helps our immune, that in turn helps our mental emotional state, regardless of what future months bring us. Okay. So Marie, did you want to add to it, or did anybody else want to
I
chime
was
in on
just
that?
going to acknowledge Brenda and what she said in the beginning, which was, I'm not even bringing those bad things into the house. So sugar, refined sugar especially, it just depletes your immune system. It creates actually more stress in the gut. And then your immune has a harder time recouping from that in the gut. So something sugary could be just as wonderful as a strawberry or a banana, or, you can have that sugary substance, if you will, just not a refined sugar, hit the reward center of the brain, or a good fat, which would be, coconut oil or avocado, hit the reward center of the brain, rather than, the Frito-Lay chips or the, whatever, because really the brain loves things that are creamy, fatty, salty, and sugary. And how do we get that in a good food rather than something that's processed and just likely to stick to your hips instead of create good gut health for you?
Yeah. When I've been trying to practice and encourage myself to eat more and drink healthier stuff. And I was listening to Mystique talking about gardening. I'm like, oh, I need to pay attention. I just spent a couple hours last night before it got dark redoing my garden in pots in my backyard. And I planted, it's a dual purpose garden. So I like to plant stuff that I can eat and consume. And I also like to plant stuff that's pretty to look at. So I've got green beans, which I love. Like I will eat them fresh picked off the plant from the backyard. I planted more sunflowers, which I'm hoping that these ones will get big enough so I can pick the seeds and then plant more. And also for eating them, because I know that sunflower seeds are good for you. What else did I plant? Oh, cilantro. I love cilantro. And of course, most of these are from seeds. And what else? Sunflowers, cilantro, beans. Oh, and the grass that they have like at those usually at like a smoothie shop. They have like this grass.
Like a wheatgrass?
Wheatgrass.
Yeah, I planted some of that. And
Wonderful.
I also have mint, like for making stuff like that.
So Melanie, a lot of what you mentioned has good nutrition. You're putting it in containers so you can adapt anywhere you live. Even if you're not a gardener, you can have a cherry tomato plant in a porch pot. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's also helping your environment because you're helping the bees and you're helping the other organisms in the soil with the plants.
I found 2 snails when I was gardening too. So I'm like, oh, yay.
Yeah, you're feeding the snails. You've got birds that benefit from that as well. I know, having had sunflowers, you got your squirrels and you got your raccoons and you got your birds that, if you're lucky, you get sunflowers out of them. And then I just want to remind people, if you do garden and you're putting in, and I strongly recommend putting in food garden over anything else, they have beautiful flowers. Even the weeds do. Who determined what is a weed? I mean, there's entire channels that you can watch on edibles that are weeds. And so it really makes you rethink just even what goes in your garden as far as what's nutrition for you and what you can use and what you perceive as beautiful. Linda, did you want to say something? I saw you joined us, so would you like to comment on anything?
My computer just said, no, my computer was being stupid. It said I might lose connection. And I was like, no, it took me too long to get on this darn. No, I'm fine. Thank you. I'm loving listening to it, though. I'm sorry I was late.
Okay. Oh, no worries. No worries. So,
this is Elisa. Can I add something?
Lisa, yes,
I had a hard time getting on. Sorry. So I'm on the phone part.
Okay.
I was just going to add a couple things real quick, because yesterday I know that my frustration was hitting. Another press release had gone out in our local community that our health department wanted to cancel all the summer activities and prevent gathering of groups through August. And that just hit me. I just didn't want to see that. And so I had to kind of sit back and pray about my attitude about what is safe, what is overkill, let's reframe. But to the subject of food, yesterday I also was helping for like the 4th or 5th week in a row at our local food bank. And they have been adding more things into their selection because they've had some difficulty getting certain things to distribute. But I just have to say a couple things in our Bellingham food bank that were in the box yesterday included coconut oil. We also had some kombucha from a local manufacturer. We also had some onions. There were some canned goods. But I was really pleased to see some of these other things making their way into our boxes, which were much better than, previous. And I did have one other Facebook friend who's a local real estate agent, and she got so frustrated in the last few weeks. She ate enough to gain like 20 pounds, and now she has no clothes to wear because the stores are closed for the most part, and she has to go do a professional activity and was freaking out. And so I thought, oh my goodness, all these ramifications. But I have been taking notes as you have been talking because I need to start on my garden. And it's been colder than usual. And so I thought, well, maybe I still have a good time to start with the ideas that you guys all have.
And maybe we should do a gardening thing on that, because we have to think about where we're at, the climate, what kinds of needs, what kind of things we can grow. And so we can do that as a separate breakout. But I wanted to comment on what you just said about the kombucha. So when we're talking about gut health and gut flora, okay, and this does help us with our metabolism, is having a good healthy gut, is fermented foods. So if we get some dairy, don't throw out the sour milk. Let it ferment. Use it for cooking. Let it sour. We actually can use it for our cooking. We call it bad because we don't want to drink it, but it doesn't mean it's not a culture. You can ferment it. And so again, YouTube channels or books or neighbors or friends, Facebook, you can get information on how to ferment foods. That includes cabbage. If you're going to plant a garden, you can, that's partly why they fermented food was storage issues. You have this garden, but how do you make it get through the winter? But you can ferment these foods, and making your own sauerkraut, not only does it not taste horribly sour like the commercial bought, but a home canned or home fermented sauerkraut actually stores quite well for a time without any cooking. So the taste is amazing. The benefits of the organisms is phenomenal. And it's the easiest thing in the world to do is to ferment some cabbage in a jar. It's like unbelievably easy. And then if you like that, then you can move on to pickles and everything else. And there's extensions. The Washington State Extension will have safe practices on how to do these kind of things. But fermented foods, if there's ways to make it yourself, kombucha, you can buy it commercially. You can make it yourself with the little fungal culture that's so weird that people put in their fridge. You can make your own kefir, which is fermented dairy, that can be from coconut milk. It doesn't have to be from cow's milk if you have allergies. Doing fermented food is a way of breaking it down in a way that aids our digestion. So it doesn't promote a leaky gut at all. It actually helps those people have more difficulties with their gut health. Miso is a fermented food. Go ahead.
Oh, miso too. I was going to say, I really love this train of thought. About a year or so ago, I was at the co-op and I was standing in their vitamin supplement section, and I had noticed that the probiotic section had grown to at least, 40 different bottles, and they all were expensive, and it was getting to be overwhelming to look at it. And I know I'm one of those who's had gut health from antibiotics and everything else for years. And I finally looked at the person, and they were laughing because I was just staring. I said, "How'd you pick a good one out of all that?" And whoever it was at the time started laughing and said, "I would go get the sauerkraut in our, not in our section here, but I would go around the corner to the sauerkraut locally made that we have right next to the vegetables."
Yep. Kimchi, sauerkraut, miso. You can also, so there's probiotics, which are the organisms that grow in these fermented cultures, and you can buy a kefir starter from the refrigerated section of the co-op, but you can also give them prebiotics. And so those who want to garden and really don't want to put any effort into it, Jerusalem artichoke. It is such a shame we don't have our farmers markets open right now, because Jerusalem artichoke is easily harvested, easily grown. It grows in the worst possible soil. All it needs is lots of water. So if you have this poorly drained, ditchy, awful place like I had by the fence line, it grows really tall. It makes a beautiful screen. The little birds and sparrows love to hide in it. And the root in the fall and winter and spring is what you harvest. And it's like, it tastes a little bit like a parsnip, which is like a more potato like flavor of a carrot. So it's sweet. It cooks down really soft and tender. You can roast them. You need to peel them. I wouldn't eat the peel. You can steam them. You can puree them. The caution on it, because it is a fiber and it's a prebiotic, is that it can give you gas if you're not used to it. So you need to do small amounts, but they store forever in the refrigerator. I've had ones that I forgot all about that were in the refrigerator, threw them in the garden, and they spread themselves, but they're easy to contain. They do grow in pots. Jerusalem artichoke, fantastic for your gut. It's an inulin fiber is what it is. And they taste
Doctor,
delicious.
can I add? That is fabulous. I love hearing all this, and I've been taking so many notes. I keep grabbing for more paper. You did say something about farmers market, and I help at the command center. And one of the priorities that they have put is, at least in our local community around Bellingham, I can't speak to other areas, they have reopened Bellingham Farmers Market with some stringent guidelines so that vegetables, the produce are able to go out. Not all the other things at this point. It's limited. They will be doing special guidelines like at a grocery store as far as distancing. I also know that they had canceled the Master Gardener plant sale in early May. However, they were moving it, a Parks Department friend said, to an online situation where you still can get some tomatoes or other plants somehow.
Okay.
And so for those locally, look at those resources. For those in other areas, maybe look online to see if some other garden groups or garden centers or some other farmers markets are able to do something, because it's not all set in stone. And I think some of them have been under some pressure that people really need some good affordable produce.
That is excellent news, because we've been hearing, like in Michigan and other states, where they're not even selling seeds because they're not necessary. And the farmers that are dumping milk and onions and all this produce because they can't transport it to people who need it. So again, we're in a really, as a Bellinghammer, we are in a really amazing spot where we have those local farmer resources. And if we can deal with the transportation and access, then we are going to have a less difficult time. So that's really promising. I'm so hopeful to hear that, I have to say.
And as a kind of footnote, if people do live in Michigan or those other states, I would strongly suggest, because I do have a background in the legislature, get a hold of your representatives or your whoever else is in your political structure. Put the pressure on and say, these things are vital, these things are needed, and maybe something good will come of it. Because I know that the squeaky will, sometimes things happen, and locally it worked. And the message got out to the right people. And if it happened here, it could happen somewhere else. And if more of these types of calls get out, maybe more people will get out of their little funk, think outside of the box, and start to participate. And maybe other people will say, hey, I have pots. I may not have ground, but I can do something in my pot, just like Melanie was talking about. Mm-hmm. And I think if more people even post that on their social media, here are some ideas. This is what I can do, and you could too. Some people honestly can't think for themselves, and they need a little bit of a help.
Well, and that's why groups like this and Facebook and our social media, when we are connecting with people, is really good. I've seen neighborhood newsletters where they are helping each other. And if anybody has excess of things, they're putting it out, notifying people, hey, I've got a box of whatever, come help yourself. And I think we'll see that through the summer as well, at least locally. But yeah, you mentioned getting out of our funk. I'm seeing I just to cheer myself up, I watched some, memes and videos of just funny things that people are doing. And one of the things that's starting to concern me is seeing people post all these boredom memes. And I'm like, oh my God, people, learn a skill, learn how to do something, for heaven's sakes, be self-sufficient, or do some of these things, connect people so that we can get the resources to people. What is this boredom BS? I'm sorry, but I never have enough time to do anything. And so God granted, in a weird way, that time. And so, come on, there are so many things we can and should do, because we have to do it on the ground level, from the bottom up. And then all our mental, emotional health and gut health and resources and community and social health will be much healthier, regardless of what comes in the future.
And it does remind me of back in the day, right? When I grew up, I had, my dad went to work, my mom stayed home. We had a garden. And the neighbor lady, she couldn't do as much, but she would come over and water. And
great.
That gave us the opportunity to be gone maybe for the weekend. And so we shared extra because it was an energy exchange, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't live in a great spot for a garden. I can have a few pots on the deck because I'm mostly shady here in the big tall cedar trees. But I did reach out to a friend who has like 8 different above ground garden plots. And I said, look, let me help you. I would love to come and weed or water or whatever. And that way we can share a bit. I don't need a lot, but it would be nice to help a friend, because I am a helper. That is what I was born to do. But also create a solution for them so they can maybe not be so attentive to their garden. I can weed, I can water, I can, and I can learn.
Great. These are all great.
I absolutely love hearing this, and I would love to hear this continue. I love these ideas. Thank you, everybody.
This is a huge conversation, so we clearly need to do more of this. And we're planning on doing this weekly anyway. We've been trying to pick different topics, but as you can see, you start talking about one thing and at least 1,000 others.
I want Dr. Pearl to do a video discussion about medicinal herbs.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Because those can be in pots. They can be in pots in the house in the wintertime. They can, and just knowing what to grow and then how to harvest and how to turn them into things would be absolutely wonderful, because these are skills that they're taught by shaman, they're taught by, you probably learn them in naturopathic school, and we didn't all go to naturopathic school, but our families could really benefit. So I think that'll be a topic for another day.
Yes, absolutely.
Also, Mystique, if I could say something, sorry, I can't get to my chat thing, but something on prevention, like boosting immune system. Because even like I watched a very good Governor Cuomo from New York, New York has a big problem, but they talked about like testing and how different things to do afterwards. But it seems like everybody's really silent on how you could boost your immune system so you wouldn't be as susceptible right from the beginning, and especially as we start to open up and go back out. At this time we could benefit from learning how to keep our immune system strong.
Well, Brenda, that's exactly why Marie and I started this, is because we're told that, stay home and we're going to come on the other side of this. but there's nothing to do in between. And we're like, oh my God, this is what we need to be telling people. So today, everything we have said about eating healthy and protecting your gut biome, and if you can't grow it, then contact someone or get the groceries, and or get a supplement if you need to. I'm trying to think of low cost issues, because even if money's not an issue now, it will probably be in the future here, depending on what comes. And so we're trying to do things ourselves, not depend on a food supply or a shipping supply for products. I wonder how easy it's going to be to get a lot of supplements, but you know, things that are high in vitamin C is everything that grows in a garden, everything that grows in the earth is high in vitamin C. Pine needle tea, not only is it an anti-parasitic, but it is also high in vitamin C. It tastes like pine needles, but you could add mint or something else in it. I mean, anything with chlorophyll in it is going to have vitamin C.
Peppers
Okay?
are high in vitamin C, red, yellow,
Yes,
orange peppers.
Nuts, well, and there's caution on those if you have an inflammatory condition, but nuts and seeds are high in zinc. You can't buy zinc for love or money right now. So there's lots of ways to help your immune system, but the first is what not to do, and that is sugar, and that is sit and stew and stress out. Find whatever technique. Marie has these great anti-anxiety techniques, tapping techniques that you can do at home, that help with stress. If you prayer or meditation, also pray over food. Dr. The Japanese, and I can always get his name wrong, Matsumoto is what I want to say, but I think that's not right.
Yeah.
Emoto, thank you. Emoto. He did research on water, and we are comprised of like 76% water. And so is our food. Anything that grows in nature, anything we cook with, anything we drink, pray, or at least send good energy to your food, because he found the word you think changes the molecule. So how you perceive your food, and we talked last time in our video about the language we used on what we called the quarantine. If we called it jail, if we called it staycation, it affected your mindset. So your mindset or your words or your language also matters on your perception of your food. Gratitude. Do you know Dr. Emoto said the water crystals that had the greatest, most harmony, most beautiful crystals were the ones that were related to love and gratitude. So even when we see things as lacking or not available in our difficulties or obstacles and hurdles, think of the things that are good. I can think of so many reasons why I could be in a funk right now, not having resources available, but at the same time, I'm like, I couldn't be in a better situation under these circumstances. And so it's all about the mindset and how you do that. So celebrate life. Okay, that's going to be my last word for you. Celebrate life, because life gives hope and hope gives life. That's what I'm going to say.
Thank you again for hosting these each week. I find them to be very helpful.
Yay. And we appreciate suggestions too.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
We are delighted to have you all. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So very well.
Okay.
And this afternoon, Dr. Grobe and I are going to talk a little bit more. I call it the nuts and bolts, but really we're going to go through and kind of explain how the gut works. And so I'll send a link to that video so you guys can watch it, so that you can understand a little bit more about why food is important, how it breaks down, and how it affects the mental emotional health, so that you have a really good foundation of what you can grow and what is helpful for immune. But we'll go a little bit more in depth, and that may be one that you have to rewind and watch again because it's a little bit of a lesson, slight lesson in molecular biology. And Dr. Grobe is extremely intelligent and has her undergraduate in genetics. And so don't let her pretty curly face fool you. She is very knowledgeable and how the body works from the genes you were born with and how they express now. And so the little bits and pieces that we understand as food actually can turn your genetics to a place where they don't have to express, and you don't have to necessarily come down with the diabetes. You don't have to come down with the terrible cardiovascular issues that parents did. You can take control over how your body chooses to be healthy. And that's kind of what we're going to touch on this afternoon.
I hope I live up to that, Marie. So thank you. And remember, Marie is adding her own very worthy 100%, not 2 cents to that as well. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. And we will be doing this weekly. We haven't set on a specific time yet. We're just sending invites to a few and then posting it on YouTube so that anybody that subscribes to Marie's channel or my channel on YouTube will then also get notifications when something's posted. And then we do the breakout, which is just a little 15-20 minute in detail on some other related topic of that day, usually the same day, but it might be on a different day, but we'll post those as well on the YouTube channels. So don't worry, we may not invite the same people every time. We're trying to get different faces, different questions, different environments, but you always will have access to our videos, whether it's live or not. And so that's kind of where we're at now, and it's a learning process, so it will evolve. And thank you all for attending today, and pass on, if you think it's worthy, pass it on.
Yeah,
We
please
need
share
to
it.
encourage people and get them thinking. Even if they disagree, at least gets them thinking, gets them moving, doing something. Okay.
Hey,
All right.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.